What's up, millennials? Skillz is slowly climbing back up, but is this trend going to continue? Today, in exchange for your valuable time, we're going to be using technical analysis to see what we can see in the chart right now. So let's do it. Before we get started with the technical analysis, let's very briefly talk about a few fundamental things. First of all, ARK Invest, they have already accumulated their position in Skillz as it seems. They currently are not adding anything more, but they have built up a pretty significant position, and currently it looks like they own about 7% of the entire company. Recently, we also had the Q1 earnings of Skillz, of course, and in Q1 of 2021, they had $83.7 million in revenue. So if you annualize that, if you multiply that by 4, because this is, of course, a quarterly number, then you would get $335 million in annualized revenue for the entire year of 2021. And if you then take into account that they currently have a market cap of $7.6 billion, then the price to sales ratio becomes about 22. And also, if we look at the analyst ratings, we can see that most of the analysts are still very bullish about Skillz. If we check out Seeking Alpha over here, we can see that most of the authors are very bullish about the stock. One is very bearish actually, but the most analysts are actually bullish or even very bullish. And if we go to marketbeat.com, we can see the analyst ratings that are still above the current price of Skillz. The consensus price target is about $25, and this is mainly depending on the price targets of the brokerage firms, which are listed down below here. Now, do keep in mind, though, that some of these firms have lowered the price target for Skillz after the last earnings report. In the previous video, when we talked about the Skillz stock and when we used technical analysis, we were showing that the 55 exponential moving average was likely going to be an important piece of resistance, no pun intended, and also the $24 level was going to be a very important level because of the Fibonacci retracement that we used back in that video. And if we go to the current price action, we can definitely see that those levels have been very important. We can see that right over here on the 26th and 27th of April, that the price action was held down by that 55 exponential moving average, which is this white line over here. And later on, a few months later on, and just a week ago more or less, or almost 2 weeks ago already, the $24 level was actually hit because of that Fibonacci retracement level. And right now, that was actually a pretty significant top for now. So let's then dive into the price action, into the technical analysis, and keep in mind we are right now on the daily chart, so every candlestick is 1 day of price action. And let's first take a look at the current uptrend that we are in, because we are creating higher lows and higher highs at the same time. We had a low over here back at the end of April, that this was a higher low, of course, compared to this low over here in the middle of May, more or less, and right now we seem to be working on a higher low compared to this low over here. And also, if you look at the highs, we had a high over here at the beginning of April, a higher high here at the end of April, and a higher high here at the beginning of June. Let's then check out these support levels, because there are quite a few of these support levels going on right now. First of all, let's check out the diagonal support level over here, because this seems to be a pretty significant level so far, which started back in May, in the middle of May more or less, which held up price action relatively well for a few weeks. Now, we did get a pretty significant increase in price action, but then the price action came back down to that same diagonal trend line. So let's see if we're going to be able to continue to trade above this diagonal line. And let's also take a look, and let's get rid of this diagonal line for now, but let's also look at the horizontal price levels. For example, the level of $17.80 seems to be a pretty significant level for Skillz right now. That level was created back here all the way back in December 2020 and also in January 2021, and that continued to be a significant level all the way here at the end of March 2021, and right now we seem to be using that level as support instead too. Let's then also add a few exponential moving averages. We can see over here the 55 exponential moving average, which is this white line over here. We have already talked about it being used as resistance over here, but now it seems to be used as support instead. So let's see if we're going to be able to stay very close to that 55 EMA and not deviate from it significantly. And then if we zoom out a little bit and we add the volume profile, we can see that currently we are trading within a very big block of volume. A lot of volume has been trading in the past couple of months, more or less. And we can see that the point of control is right now where the price action is. The point of control basically means the highest amount of volume traded. So we can see a very high volume block traded over here around the level of $19 more or less. And the point of control identifies that level. And we can see that that currently is being used as support. So in general, we can see quite a few levels of support going on around that level of $18, $19 per share, more or less. But if we would close below these levels, then I do think that the next level of support is going to be around $13 or $14 per share. And that is going to be created by this blue box over here, which has held up price action relatively well in the past. We can see that it was used as support over here in the middle of May 2021, and also over here at the end of April 2021. And if we go back in time, if we go back all the way here at the end of October, more or less, we can see it was used as resistance, and over here at the end of November, it was used as resistance as well. So that level seems to be quite significant too. And at the same time, that level of $13, $14 per share, more or less, is a very important area because of the so-called developing value area, which is the area where 70% of the volume has been traded in the past. And that area is indicated by this blue line over here. This is the upper side of that developing value area, and this blue line over here, which is the lower side of that developing value area. Again, 70% of the volume has been traded within these two bands, but this level is quite significant also because of the upper or the lower side, of course, of that developing value area. So I believe again that the level between $13 and $14 per share is a very significant one, and that level is supported also by the Bollinger Bands. If we turn on the Bollinger Bands, we can see that the lower band of these Bollinger Bands is hovering around that $15 level, slightly above the support levels we just have been talking about between $13 and $14, but I do think that the Bollinger Bands could also indicate some support around $15 per share, more or less. So as I've said, there's a lot of support going on right now, but what about the resistance if we look to the upside? Well, I believe that, again, that level of $24 more or less is going to be a very significant level because of not only this support level over here, but also because of the upper side of the developing value area. If we get back the volume profile, we can see that the upper side is hovering around that level of $24 as well. And also if we turn on the Bollinger Bands, we can see that the upper side of those Bollinger Bands is hovering around that $24 level. So I do believe that is going to be a significant level in the future. And by the way, if you also want to learn how to determine the support and resistance levels, go to nisami.com/TA to check out the program about technical analysis for absolute beginners that I recently launched. Then back to the charts and let's check out two indicators. First of all, the RSI on the daily time frame right now. We can see that the RSI is slightly below the exponential moving average on the RSI being this blue line over here and the EMA being this white line over here. We can see that it currently is trading right below that EMA. So let's see if the RSI is now going to use the EMA as resistance instead, and if it's going to continue to downtrend rather in the future, or if it's simply going to go back up. And also if you look at the EMA itself, so again the white line over here, you can see that it is curling to the downside, which is something you definitely don't like to see. So I believe the next coming trading days and potentially even weeks are going to be very significant for Skillz. And then let's also check out the MACD. So let's go to the MACD. We can see that the MACD, which is this blue line over here, is crossing below that signal line, which is the orange line over here. This is looking very similar to what the RSI is doing with regards to the EMA. And we can see that, yeah, right now the MACD is trading below that signal line. So let's see if here the MACD is also going to be using that signal line as resistance instead. And also here we can see that the signal line is crossing to the downside. It's curling to the downside. Again, that's something you don't like to see. So that is also why I believe that the next couple of trading days are going to be quite significant. And one additional thing that is also quite significant to look at is that we had bearish divergence on the MACD histogram. We can see that the MACD histogram, these vertical bars over here, these green and red bars over here, indicated that we had a high over here. You can see a high over here, and we had a lower high over here on the MACD histogram. If you go to price action, we made a high over here and the higher high over here. So that means bearish divergence, the price action making higher highs, whereas the indicator, in this case the MACD, was making lower highs. And that means bearish divergence, which usually is a bad sign. And that was probably one of the reasons for which we had a move to the downside after we went to the level of $24 per share. So if you want my thoughts about this price action in general, I believe that on the one hand, we have very solid support around that level of $18, $19 per share because of the support levels we have been talking about, because of the exponential moving average, and also because of the volume profile. On the other hand, however, we can see that the indicators like the RSI and the MACD are neutral to slightly bearish actually, and because we have solid support on the one hand but some bearish indicators on the other hand, I think that often that is going to result in some more sideways price action. So I wouldn't mind seeing Skillz trade within a range between $18 and $24 for a while. So if you're thinking about starting a position in Skillz right now, and of course this is not financial advice, but you could think about dollar cost averaging into a position. Because of that strong support, you could potentially put in about 1/3 of your target position right now, then wait for a week or two, add another third, then wait for another week or two and add another third. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you as well. Do you believe that the strong support is going to hold for Skillz, or do you think we're going to go lower to like $14 per share? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!